Talking about Saturn today. If you don't want to see spoilers, go back to the beginning of the playlist now because we're jumping straight in. Okay, this one goes out to my Saturn mains. So we have been way too hard on Saturn. Yes, it's true, a lot of the significations, but there's also a beautiful redemptive side to Saturn that we have been overlooking this entire time. So let's address both sides. Also, look how cute this guy is. My 5-year-old totally lost his mind over this picture. All right, let's go. Okay, so let's look at some of the significations that we all know about Saturn, but looking at it through the lens of it being the South Pole. If you don't already know this about Antarctica, it is treacherous and impassable. Many have fallen just trying to get to the South Pole. It is a tough piece of land. It is way more extreme than the North Pole is. This is an AI generated picture because I can't use any copyrighted images, but this gives you the idea of what I'm trying to say. It has intensely high walls. It is over a mile up in the sky. It's just these immense ice sheets that have grown over the continent. It is also completely isolated. It doesn't touch any other continents. And any of the visuals of the Earth that I show are either Google Earth or my own model, where it is the actual NASA satellite imagery mapped onto a UV sphere. So either way, it is the actual Earth that I'm showing. Unless it's an AI image, in which case I will tell you. So let's look at how our current significations of Saturn line up with what we know about Antarctica. Antarctica is not connected to any other landmass, so we can immediately see the significations of separation, isolation, and detachment. And this can be either physically or emotionally because it's also social withdrawal and privacy, all of the flavors of that solitude alone energy. Then, once you manage to get there, you have to readdress the scary ice wall situation. This gives very good reason for the significations of boundaries, restrictions, limitations, obstacles, and everything in that variety. Rigidity, stiffness, structure, and everything of that flavor is easy to see from the ice cap itself. Then, if you somehow manage to find your way onto the continent, you have to deal with the challenge of being there. This is not a real picture because I personally don't own any from Antarctica. This is an AI generated picture just for visualization purposes. This is just to help us imagine that we are on Antarctica and gain appreciation for the significations such as challenges, practicality, endurance, and all those other words that are reminiscent of a long, intense quest to the South Pole. Side note, speaking of practicality, I purposely did not remove this enormously long extension cord or whatever is happening in this AI generated image. It's such an unnecessary and impractical detail they added. It just makes me laugh, so I left it. Anyways, the most obvious signification we're still missing about the ice is cold. But another note on the ice cap is, did you know that the Antarctic ice sheet is so heavy it actually deforms the Earth? So this is great justification for the significations of heaviness and pressure. I think we all get the picture, so I'm going to move on from the ice and address the polar day idea. So let's first remember that it is the same polar day phenomenon that happens at the North Pole, only going backwards. First of all, it begins the cycle by going into darkness, which parallels the Shawnee myth perfectly, but that is for the next video. For now, what we take away from this is the signification of darkness. Then, after spending the first half of the year in darkness, it finally becomes revealed in the second half of the cycle, revealing along with it the significations of delays, patience, time, aging, and everything else in that category. This includes things that were present all along but only later revealed, such as consequence of past action, karma, justice. And it also means the positive side of this, of things that you worked very hard for a long, long time and didn't see results for a long time. And then you finally do. And the most beautiful part of it is that once it does come into the light, then seen through this theory, it's the equivalent glory of the sun. Suddenly, this long-suffering servant figure gets exalted to the glory of the king. And it's not just some quick-lived passing fancy, it's bright for the entire second half of the cycle. So now I think we can not only understand but have newfound appreciation for the significations such as long-term rewards, success, personal mastery, discipline, deep wisdom, maturity. These are not just regular and simple rewards, these are brilliant, shining rewards made from hard work. Even if you go back and review some of the significations that already made sense, They receive a second life when you see it as the reward and not the challenge. Perseverance, patience, and structure could be seen as examples of this. This also really helps to illustrate the stability of the rewards of Saturn once they come. Because even though it spends the whole first half of the cycle fighting and in darkness, once it hits that turning point, it spends the whole second half of the cycle in uninterrupted sunshine. In fact, once you catch on to this cycle, I think you see that same pattern reverberate through several different myths. That is the subject of the next video, though, so we won't get into that here. What this video is intended to do is show that there is a beautiful side to Saturn that we've been blind to. Not that we didn't see it at all, more that I think we can appreciate it with fresh eyes now. Because we knew there were some rewards associated with Saturn, but I don't think we realized how good the rewards were. At least I know I didn't, and this helps me to appreciate it better. Because I think this is relevant because it goes right along with it, I want to show a quick size comparison that I share with my clients. Okay, so here's Mercury, Venus, Earth, and Mars. My son wanted to see how big the moon would be, so I put that in too. Distance, lighting, and individual planet tilts are not accurate in this picture because in this moment we are purely doing a size comparison. So the sizes are accurate, rounded within 100 miles. And now scaling out, you can see how massive Jupiter is. And we all know that Jupiter is the biggest planet, but let's move over and look at Saturn. I was shocked the first time I saw this size chart because it was way closer to Jupiter than I was expecting. And I didn't include any of the planet tilts on purpose because I wanted to show this view from above. If you were to compare Jupiter and Saturn but include the rings, Saturn's almost twice as big as Jupiter. So to wrap it all up, we've really been villainizing Saturn this whole time as the greater Norfolk. But looking at it through what I'm calling at this moment globe theory, I believe this brings a whole rebirth to Saturn. Because now we've uncovered the discovery that not only is Saturn nearly as expansive as Jupiter, but also when the rewards finally do come, it is at the same caliber as the Royal class. So anyways, if you're a Saturn main, or if you have Saturn period coming up, maybe now you can look at that with newfound hope and appreciation. Okay, and like I said, this follows the Shani and Surya and Chaya myth perfectly, so I think that's where we're going to go next. But this is not the only myth that it seems to have reference to, so I'm a little bit worried I'm going to get sucked into the rabbit hole on that one, so I'm going to start that and see where it takes me and go from there. But regardless, if you believe me about globe theory and this makes sense to you, this resonates with you, please like this video so I know I'm not crazy, and then subscribe so that you see the further developments, and I'll see you there. Bye. I know personally I have a much deeper love and appreciation for Saturn after looking at it like this, and hopefully you feel the same wherever it lands in your chart.